Hey, we're back with lesson 11. This is video number 2, part 2, and we're on using art brushes. And these are kind of the tools for people who like to do sort of comic drawing. They like the art brushes. It mimics like pen and ink, which is really cool. So we're going to pull up our brushes panel. And we are going to do this drop down to show only art brushes. And we'll get rid of calligraphic brushes. And then we're going to, in our libraries, right down here, at the bottom of your brush panel, we're going to go to Artistic Paintbrush. And there's a bunch of other cool ones too, so. And it's going to open up all these lines, as you can see. We're going to go to List View. And then we're looking for brush 3. Not dry brush, just brush 3. And it places it right there, and we can exit out of that. So then we're going to make sure we're on our paintbrush tool in the art panel. We're going to change the stroke color to white and the stroke weight to 1, and we're going to choose paintbrush 3. So make sure our fill is none. Change our stroke to white. And we're going to pull up our layers panel to make sure we're working on the correct layer. And we're going to click on the spray tree layer. Some new artworks on there, so it's this one right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the water splash to kind of give this looking a little bit more realistic. So with our paintbrush, we're going to start from here and over to the left a bit, and you can look at the picture. And you notice it kind of makes a cool line, and you can just kind of maybe play around and redraw it to kind of get a feel of what this brush does. So I think that looks nice, and I'm going to work on it, make sure deselect everything. And so once I've done that, I'm going to do a U shape to kind of get this water spray. And that's alright, and you know, you could always just, and I'm actually in isolation, but I can always just move things. And this isn't in the textbook, but remember, it's a path, and we can make these changes all we want. And that looks really cool. So we've kind of played around, and you should always play around with each of these brushes on your own time, because that's the only way you're going to learn. You can follow the textbook all day long, but playing and creating your own work is how you learn to use the software. Right now, what you're really doing is learning how tools work and not really exploring what they can offer you as a designer. So always after each one of these lessons, just open up a new document and play around with the tools you focused on and bring back some of the other things too. So do Command S to save. So next thing we're going to do is creating an art brush with a raster image. Remember, raster images are made with pixels and they're JPEGs, and vector images are mathematically placed. So we're going to go to File, Place. Done this before with image trace. File, Place, and I'm looking at the tree PST or tree 1, tree 2. Different books have them named differently. And make sure none of these are checked in the dialog box. And click Place. And your cursor has it there, so we're going to kind of go off to the side and we're just going to click Place. We want to make this into a paintbrush so you can have these cool different things. Now we can place it in and embed it all day long, but when you make it into a art brush, you can do just a lot of cool stuff with it. So while it's selected, we're going to click in our brush panel and this new brush icon, which is the new page icon. And it gives you some options, and we're going to go to Art Brush and click OK. So then it kind of gives you some options to change it because we're creating a brand new paintbrush with it. So we're going to name it to Palm Tree. And we're just going to click OK. Now if I do this with my paintbrush tool, see, I can paint on this cool thing and it has different effects. So we'll delete everything, including that original raster image. And we're going to select this long path, and we're going to apply this stroke to the palm tree. So while this is selected, this long path, we're going to click on palm tree. And it's alright, but it doesn't really work exactly how we want it. So we're going to double click on palm tree in our brush panel. It's going to open up that dialog box we just looked at when we made it. And we're going to make some changes. So up here, we're going to do stretch between guides. So there's a guided point where it'll stretch. We'll start at 5 inches and left 6. And then down here, we'll do flip across. And we'll click OK. And this box will pull up. We want to apply to strokes. Anything that has that brush, it's going to change to it. And notice it looks nicer there. Now if I were to take my paintbrush tool, and you can still draw with your palm tree. Like that looks kind of cool, and I've made it look really kind of wonky and fun. I'm just going to delete that one and this one. But right now it has those outlines, and that was from when it was a JPEG. I mean, a PNG or PSD, and it has those kind of artifacts into it, and you can change that in the software. We can change it here. So we can select our palm tree, and then go up to opacity, and this normal we're going to change to multiply. Multiply kind of separates out the whites and the highlights of images. If you're a Photoshop person, this will make difference. These are blending modes. But see those little white marks, they're no longer an issue. And it kind of fits it within the scene, which looks really cool. And there's a little box that talks about raster image and brushes, so you can read that further. The next thing is we're to look at bristle brushes. Now bristle brushes are a lot like paint brushes. Art brushes are like pen and ink. Bristle is a lot of kind of, if you're a painter, you'll get this. So we're going to take this to bristle brushes and then hide art brushes. And we have mop, and if we take our paintbrush tool, it has these different effects, and you can layer them up, and it looks really cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click the thumbnail for this default, which is mop, and we're going to rename it to, well, we're just going to keep it as, we're not going to rename it. But there's different shapes, and you notice that they mimic paintbrushes if you've seen them at the art store or the craft store. So we're going to keep a round fan. We're going to change the size from 6 to 7, and the size is from the diameter of the brush. The bristle length, which is from where the bristles from here and there. So keep that at 150. Bristle density, so how kind of thick they are. Change it down to 20. Bristle thickness 75. Paint opacity 75. Okay. I'm going to click OK. And again, play around with these settings after this lesson, because that way you'll get to understand how things work and what things you like. Click OK. And um, next we're going to do painting with the bristle brush. And this stuff kind of got a little difficult in class last night, so just pay attention. You may want to pause the video, try, do it, and again. So what we're going to do is take our selection tool and we're going to click on this smoke shape. Next, we're going to do the draw inside. We only want to draw inside here. So in our tools panel, way down here, there's draw normal, draw behind, draw inside. I think we looked at this way back when. I would say like lessons 3 or 4, I think, with the house. So we're going to click draw inside. And as you can see, we have these little kind of boxes there. And with the smoke shape still selected, this is selected, we're going to change the fill to none. And we're just going to hit the escape key to hide that. And we're going to deselect. Now with the paintbrush tool, we're going to choose mop. We're going to make sure the fill is none, and we're going to make the stroke white, and our stroke size is 1. So basically we're going to draw up from these smokestacks over. So, and play around with how the brush works and handles. Do some build up for these smokestacks. And you're just kind of try to work build these up. And it's only going to stay inside, which is really nice. Okay. So we're going to deselect, and we kind of got these nice brushes going. So the next part is where it gets tricky, so you want to pay attention. We're going to go to View Outline. And you can see all those lines right there. This is a good way. So we're going to go to Select Object Bristle Brush Strokes. So all of them are selected. And what we're going to do is do an object group. You can go to Object Group or do a Command or Control G. And it groups all them together. Now we're going to go to View Preview or GP View Preview. The next we're going to do is select the Draw Normal button. And then we're going to double click the edge of the smokestack to enter into isolation. And we're going to just change. So we really want to get that right there. Or we're going to just change that stroke to none. So we want to get this line right there, that shape. So you got to be careful because you don't want to get rid of everything. And that one actually, I think, it's hard to kind of isolate it. So see, it says clip group and we don't want that. So I'm going to select object, everything deselected, object, select object, bristle brush strokes. And what I'm going to do is lock selection. Now I'm going to grab that. And it doesn't want me to do that. So I might go into my brush panel. Just find out where things are selected. Lock it so I can't change it. It changes my bristle brush strokes. But I'm able to turn it back on there. So it took a minute, and you saw how I went through it. It wasn't that difficult in the class, but it takes a minute to kind of get to it. So I had to go into my layers to find it. I had to hide the object, show the selection. It may not be so difficult for you, but it was hard to kind of click on it and isolate it. So I had to go into my layers to kind of remedy that. And the next thing we're going to do is for this, we're just going to kind of hide ship. We're going to hide the spray tree layer for the moment. We're going to do Command S, and that'll be it for lesson number 2. And the next one will be lesson number 3 for pattern brushes.